It's another night of NBA playoff action on this Tuesday, April the 18th, as we get to Game 2s in all these Round 1 series. Opening weekend did not treat us very well. We only hit one of our 3 bets, but the great thing about the NBA playoffs is they are an every night thing, so no time to dwell on the losses. You just have to process the information and move on to the next night. That's exactly what we're going to do here. 3 games on tap for this Tuesday. I will be involved in all 3 of them. Let's go ahead and get to them, starting in Toronto, where the Raptors host the Milwaukee Bucks. Game 2 of their series. Toronto, a 7.5-point favorite at Betsafe, 193 the total here. Bucks, of course, pulling the upset in Game 1, beating Toronto 97-83. They held the Raptors to just 83 points in the Air Canada Center. Incredibly impressive defensive performance from this Milwaukee team that really has been very good defensively all season. Very long and athletic at the wings. And it was something the way they suffocated these Raptors guards, especially Kyle Lowry. Lowry, an all-star, was just 2 of 11 in the game, 0 of 6 from 3, scored just 4 points. Toronto, of course, a guard-dominant team. I mean, Lowry and DeMar DeRozan really drive the bus for this Raptors team, so they need more production than that from Kyle Lowry. But you know what? They're probably going to get it. Lowry is a tough guy. He's usually the type of guy that produces every single night. As a matter of fact, Game 1 was the first time since January 3rd that he's been held below double-digit scoring. Now, he did miss a chunk of time there with injury, of course, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe he's still a little bit rusty, even though he played the last couple of weeks of the regular season. Might still be knocking off some rust. Hopefully for the Raptors, that rust is knocked off because, again, they'll need more from Lowry in Game 2, but I do think they'll get it. Now, the Raptors also need more from their supporting cast. This is a team with an excellent bench, a bench that generally plays very well at home, but no bench player with more than 7 points for these Raptors. And they let Milwaukee score 97 points. That's not as much of an issue as the way they started the game. Milwaukee with 30 first-quarter points. Keep in mind, this Bucks team, not very good offensively. They scored 94 points or fewer in 5 straight games to close out the regular season. They really don't have a go-to scorer on the offensive end, though Giannis Antetokounmpo certainly looked like a go-to scorer in Game 1. 28 points, 13 of 18 shooting. He was very impressive. The Raptors did not have an answer for him, but you would think they're going to cook something up for this game too. I mean, it's not like Toronto lacks for perimeter defenders. Lowry is a pest, even though he's probably a little too small for Antetokounmpo, but guys like DeMar Carroll, P.J. Tucker off the bench, Toronto is as well equipped to take on the Greek Freak as maybe any team that I can think of in the Eastern Conference, with the exception, of course, of the Cleveland Cavaliers if they have a fully locked-in LeBron James. So look, I would be concerned from a Bucks perspective about them here on the offensive end. Toronto played very good defense after acquiring Serge Ibaka and P.J. Tucker midseason. They were 4th in the NBA in points per possession allowed since the All-Star break. And again, after allowing 30 to Milwaukee in the first quarter of Game 1, they did clamp down, and I think it's going to be a bit more of a grind scoring for the Bucks here in this game. And look, I expect the Raptors to come through with a good performance here. They're an excellent home team this season, 28-13 at home. A lot of different ways they can hurt you. They are a guard-dominant team, as we mentioned, but Serge Ibaka had a good Game 1, and you would expect continued production from him. Like we said, they usually get good play out of their bench, especially at home. So I think Toronto is going to respond here with a strong performance. I like them to beat Milwaukee and cover the 7.5-point number. They burned us in Game 1. We were on the Raptors in Game 1, and of course, we lost and lost big, but I guess I'm a tough learner here. I don't learn these lessons easily. Back on Toronto for Game 2. Think they're going to win this game. And look, even though 193 is an extremely low total, I would look at the under there. I think Milwaukee's going to have trouble scoring in this one. So Toronto minus 7.5, my favorite play there. I also lean towards under 193. Moving on now to Boston, where the Celtics host the Chicago Bulls. Game 2 of their series. Boston a 7-point favorite here. 205.5 the total. Now, Boston, of course, the 1 seed in the East, the Bulls the 8 seed, but Chicago pulled the upset in Game 1, 106-102. They really took it to the Celtics, and you know, watching that game, it dawned on me. I wasn't involved in the game, but certainly watched it, and it dawned on me that a lot of people, myself included, we probably haven't been giving these Bulls enough credit. Everybody wrote Chicago off about a month ago, and a lot of dysfunction there. You know, Rajon Rondo was being benched, and of course, Dwayne Wade was injured for a time. We thought he was going to be out for the remainder of the regular season and the playoffs. Nikola Mirotic was complaining about his role. There was just a lot of things going wrong in Chicago. But lo and behold, when Dwayne Wade went out, it allowed Jimmy Butler to really reclaim the leadership role on the team as the go-to guy. And make no mistake, this is no big three. A lot of people thought heading into the season it was going to be a sort of big three in Chicago with Rondo, Dwayne Wade, and Jimmy Butler. No, this is a big one. Butler is far and away the best player in Chicago on both ends of the floor, really. But offensively, everything needs to go through Jimmy Butler. And that's what started happening after Dwayne Wade's injury. Now Wade is back, but clearly playing second fiddle to Butler, and it's working. The Bulls have won 8 of their past 10 games, and they've come alive on the offensive end, which is where they had so much trouble early in the season. They've scored 106 or more in 6 of their past 8 ball games. Again, 106 points against these Celtics in Game 1, and they really took it to the Celtics on the boards. Chicago with 20 offensive rebounds in Game 1, and if this Celtics team has a weakness, it is rebounding. They're not particularly big on the front line. Al Horford, as good a player as he is not a great rebounder. So obviously I think Boston, after giving up 20 rebounds in Game 1, 20 offensive rebounds, in Game 1, that's going to be a point of emphasis here, and they're going to put a lot of effort into doing a little better in that area. But rebounding is one of those things that travels. It's not like shooting. Rebounding night in and night out, a good rebounding team is a good rebounding team, and the opposite is true as well. And that's going to be a problem for this Celtics team. This entire series is keeping guys like Robin Lopez, Bobby Portis off the offensive glass. The Celtics, even though they were able to lock up the number 1 seed towards the end of the regular season, they're just 3-8 against the spread in their last 11 games. So they haven't been a great value, not a great team to back here lately. We saw Isaiah Thomas fighting through the grief in Game 1 with 33 points and Horford with 19, but Avery Bradley, the only other player in double figures for Boston. I think the Celtics are likely to win this game, but I think there's a tendency, people think, well, the Celtics, number 1 seed, they're going to bounce back here and win this one emphatically. And I'm not so sure about that. Again, the Bulls seemed physically better in Game 1. They really took it to Boston down low in Game 1. I really like what they're doing right now on the offensive end, again, with Jimmy Butler reasserting himself as the go-to guy. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think the Bulls are going to give Boston a run for their money here. I think 7 points might be too many. Chicago plus 7 looking like a good play to me in this situation. I know it's a little bit risky. This Bulls team at times, they have looked bad throughout the season, but over these past couple of weeks, they've been playing some good basketball. Bobby Portis giving them some great play off the bench in Game 1. Certainly if they can keep that up, it's going to be tough for this Boston team that sometimes struggles with good big men, with good opposing big men. So Chicago plus 7, my recommendation there. Final game I'll be involved in on this Tuesday, April the 18th. Let's go out west. The LA Clippers hosting the Utah Jazz. Game 2 there. Utah winning Game 1, 97-95. Thrilling finish. Joe Johnson with that buzzer beater. The Clippers, though, a 9.5-point favorite here, 195.5 the total. Major problem here for the Jazz. Rudy Gobert will miss this game, reportedly. Remember, he left not 30 seconds into Game 1 with that knee injury. We found out there's no structural damage, but it is a hyperextension. Gobert is day-to-day now, and we just learned a few hours ago he is likely out here in Game 2. That's a problem for the Utah Jazz because Gobert is absolutely the anchor of that defense. Now, Derek Favors was able to come in Game 1 and played very well, but there is no substitute for losing Rudy Gobert. And the Jazz, of course, they're a team that wins with defense. Number 1 in the NBA this season in points allowed, surrendering just 96.8 points per game. And they held this Clippers team to 95 in Game 1. I cannot see them duplicating that feat in Game 2 without Rudy Gobert. I mean, keep in mind, the Clippers, they're not a good offensive team. They are a great offensive team. 6th in the NBA in points scored in the regular season at 108.7 points per game. But that's skewed a little bit because they dealt with so many injuries. Chris Paul, of course, Blake Griffin missing time throughout the season. The Clippers really had it together towards the end of the regular season. Now their big three is healthy again. They had won 7 straight and 11 of 13 entering the playoffs. They were on a run of 5 straight double-digit wins, and they have scored 112 points in 6 of their 7 games entering these playoffs. So again, the Clippers were hot offensively. This is an excellent offensive team. Heading into the playoffs, I really felt like they were a dark horse. I wasn't involved in Game 1 here, but the Clippers playing as well as any team in the NBA heading to these playoffs, really flying under the radar. I think they're going to come out here in Game 2 and really hammer the Jazz. Keep in mind, Utah is not a good offensive team, 28th in the NBA in points scored this season. They are a great defensive team, but Rudy Gobert being out is going to be a big problem for them here. I think the Clippers get it going in the second half and roll it up on the Jazz. I like LA minus 9.5 in this one. There you have it, folks. Those are my thoughts for this Tuesday, April the 18th. I like the Toronto Raptors at home, minus 7.5 against Milwaukee. I like the Chicago Bulls, plus 7 on the road in Boston. And I like the LA Clippers, minus 9.5 at home against the Utah Jazz. I wish you best of luck, whatever you decide to do tonight, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests. Enjoy the playoffs.